Breeze Nation, what is good? It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. A little bit of early news here as Brad Biggs dropped this on Twitter and, of course, in an article, a little update around Jaylen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. And for one of them, here we go again. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. You do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel, only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you stay in tune with us, man. Let's start off with the big news, and then we'll get into the conversation around Jaylen Johnson here. But leading things off here, we're talking about Kyler Gordon yet again. Per Brad Biggs, Kyler Gordon dealing with a soft tissue injury already before we even get to camp. So OTAs is definitely probably out of the question coming up next week. And listen, it's only going to be 3 days. It's nothing crazy, but it does seem like yet again we're having this conversation around Kyler. And I'll be honest with you, here is the reality of the situation. I love Kyler. I love the kind of player that Kyler is. We know that Dennis Allen loves Kyler Gordon, and Ryan Poles has paid him as one of the best slot corners in the NFL. You would think that there's a lot of expectation on Kyler Gordon to go out there and perform. And when he's on the field, he's fine. But with a new regime in place, remember, this is year 2 of a new regime. Eventually, you are going to have the tough conversation on, okay, these guys that weren't our guys, are they a part of the future of this team? And with Kyler Gordon dealing with another soft tissue injury going into next season, can he be somebody that Dennis Allen is going to be able to count on? This would now be the 4th soft tissue injury for Kyler Gordon of his career, dealt with some last season as well. And the hope was for me that they were going to do enough because Jason McKee, if you're new to the channel, do the show with him on the Chicago Bears podcast every Friday. So I believe we have an episode coming out today, although it is J-Mac's birthday. So maybe he's taking the day off. We'll chop it up with him on that. But he talked to me about when Lovie Smith got there, and you know, that first offseason, right? Everybody had something that was pulled, a hammy, tweaked backs. I mean, you had so many injuries piling up because they didn't know how to prepare themselves for what Lovie was bringing to the table, right? Lovie was asking way more of them than Dick Duran was asking of them. And so it was interesting to see kind of that same thing play out when Ben Johnson shows up. And of course, Ben Johnson is saying, look, like, I'm asking you to run more. I'm asking you to play harder during practice. And like now, I think you have to ask yourself, okay, is Kyler either doing enough in the offseason to where he's preparing his body well enough? Or do you look at it and say, you know, okay, is this just who Kyler is? Right? Is this not a preparation thing? Is this not a workout issue? Is this not a training issue? Is this not a nutrition issue? Is he just one of those guys that is going to have those soft tissue injuries? And listen, this is a pivotal season for guys like this. I'll be real with you, because you look at guys like Jaylen Johnson, you look at guys like Kyler Gordon, you look at a lot of the names on this defense, Montez Sweat, if you will, and you see some of the outs that these guys have in contracts, and you go, well, is this guy going to be a part of the future of this Chicago Bears defense for the long run here, especially if he can't be on the field? And we know how the NFL goes. Usually that ends up being ugly. Listen, I hope that Kyler Gordon gets himself back together and gets healthy and is able to be out there for training camp. This is OTAs. This is voluntary, right? But remember last season, right? Ben Johnson was not... It's the right way to say it. Ben Johnson did not shy away from the fact that, yes, this is voluntary, but it's kind of voluntary mandatory. You should be here, and we want you to be here. We'll see what ends up happening. I think that for me, my concerns around Kyler Gordon being on the field are the same concerns that we've always had around Kyler Gordon being on the field, right? Is he going to be out there when the moments matter most? Is he going to be somebody that you can count on to give you a full game in the most important games? Because he's a massive part of this defense and a massive part of what Dennis Allen wants to do. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Something else that Biggsy talked about today is it seems like Jaylen Johnson is going to treat OTAs as voluntary this year. So we'll see if he ends up showing up. Per Al Harris yesterday, you know, he hasn't really been around the building. They haven't seen him much this offseason, which you kind of understand. And listen, I don't have a problem with that at this point, because we know when Jaylen Johnson is healthy and on the field, he can go out there and be an absolute stud on the field. So I think that there is I actually have less concern on that than I have had in years past, because I've seen Jaylen Johnson come back after having the questions about, is he going to be available? Is he going to be there? And he goes out there and plays fine. He's got the talent and he's got the ability. And if he understands the scheme, understands the system, he is one of the best players on the field. Now, with that being said, we haven't seen that version of Jaylen Johnson. That was the all-pro version. And I said about 3 years, right? Like, that last year of Matt Eberflus, where, you were getting ready to transition into Caleb Williams. You didn't see, or not the last year of Matt Eberflus, last year Justin Fields, where you were getting ready to transition into Caleb Williams. Was the last season that you saw Jaylen Johnson really go out there and be a dog, really go out there and dominate, really go out there and be that all-pro caliber player. It's not to say the talent hasn't been there. It's just the final season of Matt Eberflus, right? He showed some of that, but I think most of that defense kind of packed it in and called it a day. I think that that first season of Ben Johnson, right, just banged up. Just a banged up player. So, 3 seasons ago, that's a long time there. Can Jaylen Johnson get himself back into form? That's really the only concern I have around it. But if he's healthy, if he feels good, if he's on the field, the kind of player that Jaylen Johnson is. And so, I have less concern about him being at OTAs. I think, the conversation shifts though, right? Defensively, do you still view him as one of the main leaders of that defense? He wasn't that in the first year of Ben Johnson last year. I think this would be a very pivotal one for the OTAs and voluntary workout things, where you would hope to see him out there this year for some of those things. And hopefully the Chicago Bears are able to get him back out there for training camp and everything is healthy and he's good to go at the end of the day. To me, I'm not as concerned around Jaylen Johnson as I have been. My concerns are the big questions that we won't know until training camp, that we won't know until the season starts, right? How does Jaylen Johnson look with pads on when he's trying to move? Because he looked a step slow last season because he was trying to fight through injury to get out on the field. It had nothing to do with a lack of effort. It had nothing to do with a lack of want to. In fact, there was so much want to, he was forcing himself to be out there while injured. And I do give him credit for that. I give him credit for being able to go out there while injured and try and fight through that injury to give the team something. He was banged up. He didn't have the same speed. Of course, he wasn't able to work out the same. And so he wasn't going to be the same level of player. If we get to training camp and he looks like the same level of player, who cares if he doesn't show up to the voluntary workouts and things like that? He's not in the same position in this system that he was in Dennis and then in Matt Eberflus system. There's not the same I wouldn't say there's not the same responsibilities. I guess that's the wrong way to say it. I think that as far as leaders go, I think as far as the number one guys in the locker room go, just from a lack of him being there, Jaylen Johnson wasn't one of those guys. And I believe he runs his camp out west every year around this time. And so the team usually understands that because it is voluntary workouts that he is going to be at that. So we'll see what ends up happening. That's not one that I'm massively concerned about. The bigger thing for me is Kyler Gordon. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments below. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Better now. One love. Peace.